the wrong man, Captain America. Before we dive into this real-life HOA nightmare, make sure to subscribe, because justice is just getting started. New York City always had two kinds of enemies, the ones who attacked the nation from the outside, and the ones who tried to control people's lives from the inside. And Captain America was about to discover that sometimes the greatest fight starts at home. After years of global battles, Cap had made a decision. He needed a place to finally breathe, a home, not a barracks. He wanted to own something real, something worth defending not just as a soldier, but as a human. So he bought a historic New York apartment building, a fully legal purchase restored with his own funds. It was an old building near Lake Liberty Park, red bricks, blue windows. A structure older than Captain himself, almost a century. Residents loved him instantly. Kids would salute him every morning, and the elders finally felt safe knowing a superhero lived among them. But there was one person who hated him from day one, Karen Whitlock, president of the HOA. She believed rules were absolute, and she was the rules. Her perfectly ironed blazer and judgmental stare were more intimidating to residents than any alien invasion Cap had fought. The HOA board meetings ran like dictatorships. Every flower pot, every mailbox, every window curtain, all dictated by her rulebook. Captain America didn't break any law. He broke her authority. The day he moved in, she issued a warning. Uniforms are not allowed as daily wear. He ignored it. He served his country 24/7. The uniform wasn't clothing, it was identity. Later, she issued fine after fine. Shield is a weapon. Remove it from property. Unauthorized patriotic decorations. Superhero interference not permitted under HOA Section 14. And then came the most absurd complaint. American flags make the building look political. Remove immediately. The flag captain had fought decades to protect. Now labeled a violation. Cap paid no attention. But Karen wasn't used to being ignored. She dug deeper, searching old archives until she found something she could weaponize: HOA, structural compliance fees. An old, rarely used clause. A loophole. A trap. She issued him a fine of $175,000, claiming his restoration work had violated aesthetic integrity. Residents protested. Some cried. One veteran threw his cane at her feet. But Karen smiled like she had already won. When Cap refused to pay an illegal fine, she escalated. She filed a demolition order on his property. If the payment didn't arrive in 48 hours, they would destroy Captain America's home. The sheriff delivered the notice personally. Even he looked ashamed handing it over. Cap stood silent for a long moment, fingers tightening on his shield. This wasn't about rules anymore. It was about power. Before he could take action, red sirens flashed across the city. Screens in his hallway went blue with emergency alerts. Alert: NYPD network failure, total fiber cut. Downtown Manhattan police communications offline backup systems. Unresponsive Captain's eyes widened. This wasn't coincidence. He rushed outside. The streets shook. Cars collided. Helicopters spiraled without guidance. New York was blind, defenseless. Cap ran back inside his building, to a hidden network cabinet he'd installed weeks earlier. He sliced open the security panel with the broken edge of his shield. Inside, fiber lines severed, cut clean, professionally, he knew exactly who did it. Karen was standing across the street, arms folded, smirking. This wasn't a homeowner dispute anymore. This was sabotage. He contacted Homeland using his emergency encrypted watch. The response was chilling. Captain, those cut lines weren't NYPD only. They were connected to the federal backup system under Lake Liberty. New York's entire defense network had been attacked, and the HOA president was the prime suspect. Cap rushed to the rooftop, smoke rising from blocks away, alarms echoing. He looked down at Karen, her HOA badge shining like a declaration of war. She raised a document and shouted, "Pay the fine, or we take everything!" Captain America realized a horrible truth. HOA Karen wasn't trying to destroy his home. She was trying to take it, to access whatever lay beneath it. Because beneath that historic building was a concealed federal fiber vault, a connection Karen was never meant to know about. Cap's fists clenched. The fight had begun. For America. For his home. For freedom. He leaped off the roof, ready to take the battle to the ground. But just as he landed, black unmarked vans screeched into the street. Doors flew open. Soldiers in tactical gear poured out. Not NYPD. Not FBI. Their uniforms bore a chilling symbol. Hydra. Reborn. Karen stepped behind them and smiled. Captain America stepped outside his townhouse in Queens, NY, expecting a peaceful morning. But instead, a bright red violation notice was taped to his door. Unauthorized shield storage. Fine, $1,000. Remove immediately, he frowned. Unauthorized shield storage? It was his own porch. Just then a voice echoed from across the street. Rules are rules, Captain. It was Mrs. Kendra, the HOA president, a woman who treated neighborhood regulations like national law. She stood proudly, holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. Your shield reflects sunlight, she snapped. It causes glare on nearby homes. Residents are complaining. Captain America calmly replied, You're telling me my shield is a safety hazard, but those broken streetlights aren't. Kendra's eyes narrowed. We control what matters. This community must remain under order. She handed him another notice. Noise violation. Your motorcycle engine disturbed residents. Fine. 2,500. Steve clenched his fists. You can't be serious. Oh, Captain. Kendra smirked. We are very serious. HOA drones hovered above, scanning his property. Steve realized this wasn't about rules. It was about control, and someone wanted Captain America out of the neighborhood. As he ripped down the violation papers, he muttered, If they want a war over freedom, they picked the wrong soldier. Under the cold New York sky, his shield glinted. This wasn't just an HOA dispute anymore. It was the beginning of a real battle. Captain America didn't sleep that night. He sat in the dark, shield by his side, staring at the stack of HOA fines now overflowing on his table. He needed answers. So just before midnight, he slipped into stealth mode and headed toward the HOA office building, a small but heavily secured structure near the neighborhood gate. As he approached, he saw military-grade cameras and laser trip alarms. This is way too advanced for a homeowners association. He climbed to the roof and found a hatch with a glowing biometric lock, but his shield opened it, almost like it recognized the vibranium. Inside, a secret elevator leading underground. He descended into a massive high-tech chamber filled with monitors displaying every house in the community residents' personal files, financial accounts, and weaknesses. This wasn't property management. This was surveillance and control of American families. Then he saw a live feed. His own home, glowing red, and Mrs. Kendra speaking to a shadowy figure. Sir, we will force Captain America to comply. No one disobeys the HOA, a metallic voice replied. Ensure the weapons remain hidden. He must never discover what's under Phase 6. Steve's eyes widened. Weapons? Phase 6? He stepped back and accidentally triggered a silent alarm. Lights flashed. Doors slammed. HOA security robots rolled toward him. Steve gripped his shield and smiled. You should have picked a different neighborhood. He charged. HOA war had officially begun. Security bots rolled in, metal claws, tasers crackling, red scanners targeting Captain America. This wasn't enforcement. This was military tech disguised as HOA compliance. Steve raised his shield as the first bot struck. Sparks flew. Metal crushed. Alarms screamed. Within seconds, he dismantled every machine in the hall. But the alarm had drawn more attention. Human guards wearing dark tactical gear stamped with HOA Compliance Division. They weren't neighborhood volunteers. They were trained operatives. Steve escaped through a maintenance tunnel that led outside near the neighborhood's reserve park, the one Mrs. Kendra demanded be kept private. Now he understood why. Underground, he heard drilling and clanging, heavy machinery operating right below American homes. The HOA wasn't protecting the community. They were building something underneath it. Steve followed the vibrations until he found a sealed hatch disguised as a tree stump. His shield tore it open. A blast of freezing air hit him. A massive underground bunker stretched beneath the neighborhood, filled with steel shipping crates labeled Prototype XM9. Tactical armor racks, federal-class encryption servers. This was a weapons factory hidden under residential property, under families, under children, and at its center, a glowing cube connected to cables and pipelines. Phase 6, activation pending. Before he could reach it, a familiar voice echoed. Mrs. Kendra appeared, flanked by armed guards. No clipboard now, no polite HOA smile. Just cold command. Your shield is the final key, Captain. You moved into the wrong neighborhood. She activated a switch, the floor cracked, the cube pulsed, sirens boomed, above ground, houses shook as streetlights exploded one by one. Phase 6 had begun. Captain America braced himself, realizing this battle wasn't just about HOA rules anymore. It was about national security. It was about American lives. It was war, and it was happening beneath New York City. He tightened his gloves, shield raised. You messed with the wrong Avenger. Lights turned blood red, to be continued. The bunker roared to life. Pipes pumped energy into the glowing cube as green digital maps projected across the steel walls. A giant display showing every home in the neighborhood. Household power, water access, internet and cellular, door locks. Emergency services. Everything was routed through the HOA system. Steve analyzed the map instantly. This network wasn't local. It linked directly to New York City infrastructure, meaning the HOA could shut down an entire district. They could cut police and fire communications. They could lock people inside their homes, and they already had. Above ground, neighbors screamed as garage doors sealed shut, windows locked. Phones died in their hands. Mrs. Kendra stepped closer, confidence burning like a wildfire. Order requires control. America has lost its discipline. We will restore it, street by street. Her guards rushed Steve. He swung his shield. Metallic echoes thundered as men fell. He moved through them like a storm. But Kendra escaped to the cube's core platform, her hand pressed against a biometric panel. Suddenly the cube recognized Steve's shield. Not as a threat, but as a power source. His vibranium was the missing piece. The energy spikes nearly blew him off the catwalk. The HOA wasn't just illegal. It was engineered specifically to harness Captain America's weapon. Steve grabbed a sparking cable and jammed it into the cube, reversing its charge. The bunker trembled. Cracks split the walls. Ceiling chunks collapsed like falling meteors. But that wasn't the worst part. A network alert flashed across every screen. Phase 6, detonation risk, blast radius 3 miles. Steve's pulse sharpened. If this bunker exploded, thousands in Queens and Brooklyn would die. He sprinted after Kendra as she escaped into a service corridor, screaming orders into a wrist communicator. Gunfire exploded behind him, HOA tactical squads closing in with drones buzzing overhead. Back above ground, Steve burst into daylight. The neighborhood transformed into a lockdown zone. Steel shutters, sealing doors, loudspeakers blaring HOA violations, robots patrolling sidewalks. A terrified mother clutched her children behind a fence. Please, help us. No dialogue, only fear in their eyes. Steve nodded. The promise of a soldier. He couldn't let a single civilian be harmed. Not here, not on American soil. The sky darkened as a fleet of drones lifted above the rooftops, each armed with explosives. This wasn't neighborhood enforcement anymore. This was terrorism disguised as a homeowner association. Steve's mission was clear. Stop the drones, save the families, and this HOA dictatorship. He jumped onto a parked truck, shield reflecting firelight from the burning street, and launched himself toward the nearest drone swarm. This wasn't just a battle for one block in Queens. It was the battle for the American way of life, to be continued. The sky over Queens became a battlefield. Drones swarmed like steel hornets, engines screeching as their targeting lights scanned for homes marked rule violations. Captain America sprinted across rooftops, muscles burning with every jump. His shield spun through the air, slicing through the first 2 drones in a spray of shattered metal. Sparks rained down like a 4th of July gone wrong. On the street, families crouched behind barricaded doors. powerless. This was supposed to be a peaceful New York suburb. Now it looked like a war zone. Kendra's voice boomed through public speakers. Compliance is security. Non-compliance is chaos. Her HOA empire, built on fear, was seconds from unleashing destruction. Steve leapt, grabbing onto a drone mid-flight. He redirected it into another. A fiery explosion lighting up the block, one by one. The machines fell, but he wasn't fast enough. 3 drones locked onto the police station, the same target she once disabled to seize control. Steve landed hard, knees crushing against pavement. But he threw his shield with everything he had. Left a single shining arc, one impossible shot, and all 3 drones detonated in the air. The shockwave knocked him into a mailbox. He struggled to breathe, but he smiled. The police doors burst open. Officers regained communications and charged into the streets. Finally, backup. The last of the drones fell, silence crawling back into the neighborhood like a cautious guest. But Kendra wasn't done. She stood in the center of the street, activating a final override detonator, rage twisting her face. You ruined perfection. I own this city! Steve rose, battered, breathing smoke, bleeding, but unbroken. He slammed his shield into the pavement. Vibranium shock rippled outward, cracking the detonator and launching Kendra backward. Officers swarmed her before she could recover. The neighborhood exhaled for the first time in hours. A young boy peeked from behind a door, his mother trembling beside him. Steve raised his shield. Reassurance forged into metal. Sirens echoed as specialists arrived to dismantle the bunker, revealing mountains of data exposing corruption. Bribes, illegal surveillance. The HOA empire collapsed overnight. Kendra was taken away, screaming about rules that no one would follow anymore. Neighbors gathered, thanking the hero who didn't ask for thanks. He watched children ride bikes again, dogs bark again, and families open doors freely. Peace wasn't loud, it was simple. Steve stood on a rooftop as the sun set behind New York's skyline, shield on his back. In knowing the real battle never ends, freedom needed protectors, even in the smallest neighborhoods. Especially there, Captain, America whispered to himself. No one should ever have to fight for the right to live free in their own home. The American flag above the police station fluttered again. Connected. Online, alive. Justice wasn't perfect, but today it won.